So you want to buy your first house, and you're a little confused by the home buying process. Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today, so let's go. Hi, I'm Charlotte with Birch & Cedar Realty Group. I'm a local realtor here in the Boise, Idaho area. If you're looking to buy your first house, congratulations, this is so exciting. And even if you're not, you just want to understand the process a little bit better, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the home buying process, and we're going to go step by step. So let's go. First, a little note about new construction and existing resale. The process for both is very similar. For new construction, you are likely to have a few different forms, or the forms may look a little bit different, but the process is basically the same. In general, there's only one added step, which is where you will actually go to their design center or meet with their designer and pick out new colors and features and things like that. Number one, save for your down payment. You want to start off by creating a budget and really truly understanding what kind of housing expenses you can afford. So you want to start there. Then you want to do a little bit more research. You want to look into some of the loan programs that are available, because there's a lot of different loans with a lot of different down payment options, and you really need to see which one interests you the most. For example, there's conventional loan. That one is typically going to be a 20% down. Then you have FHA. That one is typically a 3.5% down payment, but there are different programs in there, so you do want to do your research to know which one's a good fit for you. Then you have USDA loans. This is a zero down loan opportunity for eligible homes in rural and suburban areas. So if this loan program is of interest to you, reach out and we can look into areas that have homes that qualify. Next, we have VA loans. These are actually zero down loans for our military. If you've been in the military, these are actually one of the best loans that you can get. So if you think you might qualify, you should definitely look into it. Next, we have grants such as Idaho Housing and Finance Association. This is actually a private corporation that has funds to allow for grants and other down payment programs to assist home buyers in buying their home. The next part of step number one is not just saving for your down payment, but also saving for your closing costs. Closing costs include things like lender fees, title fees, proration in HOA and taxes. There's also recording fees, and then there's also HOA fees. So it covers quite a bit. So you want to make sure that you have enough saved up to cover those fees. Keep in mind these can be negotiated with the seller, but don't count on it. In addition, if you have a VA loan, there are certain fees that you actually can't pay for as a buyer, and the seller actually has to pay for, or even the lender will cover. So the last point I want to make here is that don't just save for your down payment and your closing costs. You also want to make sure that you have money left over and saved for a rainy day. So, you're no longer going to have a landlord that's going to do the repairs for you. You're going to be responsible for any repairs that need to be made. So make sure you're putting money aside in case something unexpected occurs, like if you have to replace a water heater. Number two, know your credit score. It's actually really smart to talk to a lender pretty early in the process. Not only can they help you determine what kind of loan you might be interested in, therefore let you know how much down payment you're going to need, but they can also take a look at your credit report and let you know if there's any errors on there or anything that needs to be fixed, or if you need to improve your credit score to qualify for an even better loan. Number three, find an agent. A lot of first-time home buyers don't realize that it is actually a free service to have an agent represent you. The seller actually pays the buyer's agent fees. You want to find an agent that actually understands the market and can explain to you what kind of market you're in, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market or a neutral market, and what that means for you when you're putting in an offer. An agent's years of experience is definitely something that you want to take into account. You also want to find an agent that represents both buyers and sellers, and here's why. If you have an agent that is representing both buyers and sellers, they have a good understanding of both sides of the process. They understand what a seller really wants to see in an offer and can help guide you accordingly. You also want an agent that's very good at working virtually and with technology. Especially right now when times are crazy with the coronavirus, things are changing. And if you're still needing to buy or sell in this time, make sure that they are virtually and technology enabled. The next step is to get pre-approved. If you haven't talked to a lender by now, this is the step to do it. You definitely want to start talking to a lender before you are looking at houses, and here is why. Number one, if there is something that shows up on your credit report, they can help you fix it before it's too late. Number two, they can make sure that you're looking at the right price range. And number three, if you're going to put in an offer, most sellers are going to require a pre-approval letter. So in a tight market where things don't stay on the market very long, if you don't have that pre-approval ahead of time, you might miss out on that home that you found that you love. All right, so now it's time to find a home. This is the fun part. I always tell buyers to start off with making a list. You wanna look at the things that you want in a home. So the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, how big you want the lot, maybe 1 story versus 2, those kinds of things. Then it's time to maybe make a list of the type of styles that you like, whether that's Cape Cod or country French or contemporary modern, ranch, those kinds of things. Take a look at the architecture styles and make sure you know which ones appeal to you. Also think about what kind of community that you want to live in. Do you want to live in a gated community? Are you actually at the age where you want to live in a 55 and older community? Do you want to live rural, or do you want to live in downtown? Like, these are all things that are important and you need to consider. So the other list to make is the places that you go or you need to commute to. So whether that be work or schools or church or certain types of shopping or restaurants that you really like, make a list of those things so that you can make sure that you're finding a home in a reasonable distance to the things that you care about. And the last thing is to note what kind of neighborhoods or what areas you know that you like. Making a list and keeping track of all of these things can definitely help us narrow down the list when we're looking for your perfect home. The next step is make an offer. What constitutes a good offer? Well, there's quite a bit to consider. We have price, earnest money, the different contingencies, which include financial, inspection, as well as appraisals. We have closing cost negotiation, closing date, and then miscellaneous other terms and conditions. Each one of those matters when you're talking about putting in a good, strong offer. So what do you need in order to submit the offer? You need your signed offer, you need your earnest money. Oftentimes here there will be the seller's disclosure form that's signed by the seller, and you will sign that and also submit that with your offer. You need your pre-approval letter from your lender. And then sometimes certain sellers will ask for additional documentation. For example, if you are looking at new construction, they're likely to have some additional documentation that they want you to sign. Once your offer is submitted, the seller can either accept, reject, or counter back. If they counter back, you can either accept, reject, or also counter. And this can go back and forth until you either come to an agreement or you don't. Next, have a home inspection. What is a home inspection? An inspection is done on the property to make sure that you are getting what you are expecting and that it is in good condition. An inspector will go in and look throughout the property. They'll look at the roof, they'll look at the crawl space, they'll look at the plumbing, they'll look at the landscaping, they'll look at a list of different things. And they'll report their findings. So if they find issues, they'll report them. Otherwise, they'll say it's in good condition. I recommend doing inspections on all properties, whether it be new construction or existing. So what happens after an inspection? Well, you and your agent will look through that report and you will see what issues were found, and you will determine which ones you would like the seller to fix. So remember, that report is not to have the seller fix every little minor thing. The purpose of the report is to make sure that you are getting the home that you expect and that there's no underlying issues. So if you're looking at a 15-year-old home, the inspection report's probably going to say that there's about 5 to 10 years left on that roof before it needs to be replaced. Unless that roof has already been replaced, that's something that should be taken into consideration when you're submitting your offer. And it should be something that's taken into consideration when the listing agent puts that home on the market. So if there's a good 5 to 10 years left on that roof, the seller's probably not going to replace it. Once we've put together that list, we're going to send that over to the seller. The seller can choose to perform all, some, or none of the repairs requested. If they choose to repair all, that's great. But if they choose to repair some or none, then you as the buyer have the option to cancel the agreement and get your earnest money back. Let's talk about the appraisal. What is an appraisal? An appraisal is done by an independent party. They go in and they determine the value of a home. If If you're getting a loan to purchase that property, a lender is going to require an appraisal be done on that property. Even if you're paying cash, you can have an appraisal done to determine the value of that home. So what happens if the appraisal comes in low? 3 things can happen. First, the seller can lower the price. Second, you as the buyer can pay the difference. And third, you as the buyer can actually cancel the transaction and get your earnest money back. Okay, we've gotten through all the contingencies and we're ready to close the sale. So there's a lot of steps in order to close the sale. First, you're going to want to schedule your closing date with the title or escrow company. Second, there's actually 2 walkthroughs that are done. The first is about 3 days after the repairs are supposed to be completed from the inspections. You go and you look and make sure that that was actually the case. And the second one is done about 3 days before closing. And the purpose of that inspection is to make sure that the property is in substantially the same condition as when you first put the offer in. The next step in the process is, if you have a loan, the lender is going to send you closing disclosures. Those disclosures you need to review and send back. The next step is to actually attend the closing. That appointment that you scheduled with the escrow title company, you need to remember to take with you your driver's license, as well as a cashier's check or a money order, the amount of which will be given to you by the title company. It will be the remainder of the closing costs that you need to pay in order to close on the home. After you sign all of your lender documents at the closing, the escrow officer is going to send copies over to the lender. The lender will evaluate, process on their end, and then distribute funds to the escrow company. Once the escrow company gets the funds, they will then send the deed of trust off to the county recorder's office. Those will then get recorded down at the county recorder's office. And then once they do, escrow will notify you that your house has closed. Congratulations, you are a new homeowner. You'll be notified either by the escrow company or your agent or both that you are officially a homeowner, and will arrange for key delivery so that you can actually move in. Congratulations. If you'd like a free copy of my buyer's guide, you can actually click the link in the description below and I'll send it over to you. I hope this was helpful. As always, like, subscribe, and click the little bell. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.